Welcome to Bite Size SEO News, where I find the top 3 news in digital marketing so you don't have to. Where I make news easy to digest and easy to follow in 10 minutes or less. If you want to read the article, links are posted in the show notes below, so you never have to worry about FOMO. My name is Rich Young, your host. Today is Friday, February 18th, 2022, episode 33. Coming up. Fresh out of the oven are today's top 3 news you definitely don't want to miss. Story 1. Google releases Data Studio dashboard for web stories. Story 2. Google plans privacy change similar to Apple's. Story 3. Spotify is acquiring 2 major podcast tech platforms. If you're ready, let's get into it. Alright, our first story for today. This one's brought to you by Danny Goodwin of Search Engine Land. Google has created a Data Studio sample template called the Web Stories Insight Dashboard. It provides an overview of how your Google Web Stories are performing. Web Stories are visual, tappable, full-screen mobile stories that can be found via Google Search and Discover. Metrics you can view in Web Stories Insights Dashboard. There are 2 main tabs, Overview and Story Level. Among the metrics you can view on this dashboard are key metrics, which are story starts, page views, time spent and completion rate, audience metrics, which are age, gender, and device, top stories, which are your top 10 stories during a selected time period, sorted by story starts, traffic channels, which are an overview of how users have found and read your web stories, organic search, direct, referrals, social email, or custom. And lastly, story level performance, which are key metrics and a breakdown of page views for a specific story. For this template to work, you'll first need to set up tracking for your web stories in Google Analytics. For whatever editor you use to create web stories, you'll need to provide your UA tracking ID. After you've done this, you can view performance metrics by navigating to Behaviors, Events, Overview. Then you'll be able to see metrics including any story starts, time spent, story page viewed, and story completions. How to get the dashboard. Once you get there, simply select your analytics account from the drop-down to see your data. Also, you can copy the template and customize it to your liking. Why do we care? Data is king. This template provides a visual overview to help determine how well your Google Web Stories are performing. You can see how engaging your content is and how people are finding your stories. Tracking the performance of any content you're investing time and resources is essential. For more information and more screenshots, check out Danny Goodwin's article in the show notes. Alright, for our next story, this one's brought to you by Jessica Bursinski of CNBC. Google on Wednesday announced it's adopting new privacy restrictions that will cut tracking across apps on its Android devices, following a similar move made by Apple last year that upended several firms' advertising practices. Google said it's developing new privacy-focused replacements for its advertising ID, a unique string of characters that identifies the user's device. The digital IDs in smartphones often help ad tech companies track and share information about consumers. The changes could affect big companies that have relied on tracking users across apps like Facebook, parent Meta. Apple's adjustments hit Meta particularly hard, for example. Meta said earlier this month, Apple's privacy changes will decrease the social media company's sales this year by about $10 billion. That news contributed to wiping $232 billion from the company's market cap in a single day, eventually pushing the total below $600 billion. Last June, Meta was worth more than $1 trillion. But while Meta fought against Apple's changes, it voiced support for the way Google plans to implement its privacy tweaks. Google said it will continue to support the current identifiers for the next 2 years, which means other companies have time to implement changes. Apple was criticized by Facebook and other apps from tracking their data for advertising purposes. Google criticized Apple's approach in its blog post without naming the company. Focusing on privacy practices could help the tech giant get ahead of regulatory issues as lawmakers and consumers become more aware and concerned of their personal data. The company said it would work closely with regulators. If you'd like to get some more information, make sure to check out Jessica's article in the show notes. Our last story for today, this one's brought to you by Ashley Carmen of The Verge. Spotify is making more podcast acquisitions. The company announced Wednesday it's acquiring both Chartable and Pod Sites, two of the most prominent podcast marketing and ad attribution companies. The deal price hasn't been disclosed, but this marks the first major acquisition the company has made this year in a long line of audio phases. Both Pod Sites and Chartable allow podcasters and networks to include tags in their shows that are used to track who listened, if they heard an ad, and whether they took action upon hearing it. Spotify says it plans to use Pod Sites technology outside podcasting and will bring it to the full scope of the Spotify platform, including audio ads within music, video ads, and display ads. The Chartable acquisition appears to be more directed towards podcasters themselves rather than advertisers, particularly because of its technology like smart links. This deal is particularly critical for the company as it tries to make its ad platform the best and most powerful in audio. If it wants everyone to purchase ads through its marketplace, then it needs technology to better figure out who's listening to those ads and what they're doing after hearing them. At the same time, marketing analytics are critical for show creators who want to ensure they're spending their budgets well. This deal helps both creators and advertisers, two groups to Spotify needs and wants to court. Spotify has been on a podcasting acquisition spree in recent years, spanning across advertising technology, audiobooks, and top creative talent. Last year, the company bought Whooshkaa, Pots, Findaway, and Locker Room to offer and promote more spoken audio content, which followed its purchase of the major podcast ad platform Megaphone in late 2020. At the same time, Spotify has been scooping up major talent and shows to run ads on, including Joe Rogan's podcast, as well as Gimlet, Parcast, and The Ringer. If you'd like to get more information, make sure to check out Ashley's article in the show notes.
That's it for today's show. We've made it to the end. You're good to go and ready for the day. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please rate the show so it helps spread the news and I can continue doing what I do best, which is providing you the latest SEO news you just cannot miss. Served tapa style, making it easy on the stomach and on the go. Once again, I'm your host, Rich Ung, and I'll see you on the flip side.